the Commonwealth policy to preserve the wetlands. And
Mr. Roadley.
Here.
Mr. McElroy.
here,
Mr. O'Brien.
here.
Mr.
Rose,
F.
any changes?
No changes or corrections.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Period. This period offers a chance to participate. Speakers must provide their names and address. For being none, we will move to the public hearing portion of the agenda. The outline, then the public hearing will be opened. At that time, presentations before the board or the public hearing will be closed. We'll take our first case, which is WJPA 20.
Good evening, Board. Emily Grosjean, Watershed Planner, presenting on behalf of Mr. Ryan Lee of the Westport Neighborhood Association. Here we have the subject parcel outlined in blue, along with that watershed boundary outline. And the current FEMA floodplain. This is Zone Nth 2021 under WJPA 21- with a 30-foot gangway and floating dock that would transverse approximately 68.26 square feet. But what was constructed here is the current as-built. I have what was originally improved image again, but looking at what was actually constructed here in orange by seating area and walkway. Current site photos. This is the entryway to there's that gangway, moving a bit close, railings extending outward, and then just a view from the corner kayak boat launch. On February 1st, 2025, the Virginia, as a Chesapeake Bay program partner, is committed to achieve a no net loss of. The following three criteria must be met. All reasonable mitigative efforts, including all, and the proposal must demonstrate clearly its need to be in the wetlands and its overall satisfy all three criteria. However, compensation for the wetland loss is required. Committee responsible mitigation through offsite or out-of-kind mitigation within the same watershed. If compensation is required, it should be a condition of the permit, with no additional conditions. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
The as-built versus the portion that's within our jurisdiction, slight deviation.
It's from the applicant.
President of Roth Environmental, 700 Prescott Circle, Newport News, Virginia, approved through the Wetland Board. The deviation that has occurred on this, in order to not impact the three cypress trees there, in the same direction generally, as far as the gangway over the sliver that it hangs over there, and then out beyond. Brad Reams on that, and they've recommended approval. That increase in area out over. Any questions
From the public regarding this? The board?
Chairman, fairly straightforward, slight field adjustment for me. Motion to adopt the resolution to grant the permit request for Wetlands Board case number WJ.
Mr. Roadley.
Yes.
Mr. McElroy.
Yes.
Mr. May.
Yes.
Ms. Bowie.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion request. Ms. Grosjean?
Originally granted on June 14th, 2023. Staff extension is to have the new expiration date coincide with that of WJPA.
For staff?
No.
Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the permit extension.
013 at 5030 and 5032 River Drive.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Ms. Grosjean, one more.
Medic is requesting an approval modification to WJPA except for the Resource Protection Area Restoration Planting Plan and the associated surety amount be $5,200.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
250011- at 7236 Otey.
Ms. Bowie.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
The Chesapeake Bay Board. The response and lakes in James City County, which are tributaries to the Chesapeake Bay.
Here.
Next item on the agenda, the minute of a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from the February 11th.
Opposed? Motion carries. Opinions, topics discussed shall not be directly related to specific public comment period. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period and move to public hearing will be opened. At that time, anybody wishing to speak may do so. Time limits. After everyone wishing to speak has done so, Discussion among the board has concluded. Kingsmill Road. Amanda.
Mr. Robert Thompson of William and Mary's installation of 2 sheds located at 900 Kingsmill Road within the Kings in 2004. And looking closer at the aerial project area. The total lot size of this property is 191.39 acres, of which 20% is located within the impacts to the RPA associated with this proposal equate to 200-story trees and 3 shrubs. The applicant will be required to submit the publishing of the staff report. And this is the proposed mitigation plan. These are the 2 sheds proposed for replacement. The ordinance conditions in sections 23-11 and 23-14 and should be heard by the following 5 conditions, which you have before you. Staff has written request, and if the board wishes to approve the request, staff recommends the following conditions be James City County Attorney's Office to guarantee the mitigation plan equaling 1 planting. The applicant must obtain site plan approval from the plan 11th, 2027, and written requests for an extension to
For staff. Thank you. Hearing none, I'll pull it back to the board. Any discussion, further discussion? Close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
60014 at 900 Kingsmill Road.
Mr. Wilson?
Roadley.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next item on the agenda is CBPA 26-0.
Again, board, a motion for encroachments into the RPA buffer for the extension of a deck located at 4455 Pleasant View Drive. Subject parcel in blue here, which we will zoom in. As you can see, it kind of just slopes off to the rear right portion of the property in the landward buffer. 80 square foot raised deck at the back of the home by an additional 328 square feet. Required mitigation for this amount of impervious impacts equals 1 planting unit of physical plantings. So we have the proposal here to encroach on anyone's property, which they don't plan on doing. This up as we go through these current site photos here, towing that property line, then just moving closer in where it's going to connect, moving over here to look at the proposed deck extension. Staff has evaluated the construction of a deck is accessory in nature. The board may grant exceptions to 23-7 if the proposed development. Staff recommends approval for this exception request, and if the board permits as required for the project, the applicant must submit a payment of $500. This exception request approval will become null and void if construction is not begun by March 11, 2027, the expiration date. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Any questions for staff?
Section of townhomes, not from what I saw.
Scourging,
It's some sort of kind of crushed gravel or
Okay.
mulch. We're kind of leaving it vague. Yeah, anything that's disturbed has to be permanently stabilized with
All right.
either of those things.
Here to address the board. State your name and address for the record.
For your time and consideration and for all your important work protecting the plan is to pull the deck in 1 foot inside the property line on both, to take care not to do any kind of disturbance as little as possible. Oh, and take care with the gutter and the water. I remember what the other piece was. While for this unit of us, there are decks that do extend off of the back of the property. The neighboring property owner in urban and environmental planning, and she's just expressing her.
Thank you very much.
Chair, I think this is a minor,
To contact staff about that permanent. I will close the public hearing. The matter is before the board.
Chair would make a motion for 04 at 4455 Pleasant View.
Mr. May,
Yes.
Ms. Bowie,
yes.
Mr. Roadley.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Landing Road. Amanda.
8. Ms. Karen Hall of Meadow Spring Consulting, PLLC, located at 10200 Sycamore Landing Road, the adoption of the Chesapeake Bay Ordinance in 1990. Looking closer at the property, this is the floodplain. Wall behind the existing dwelling to stabilize the yard above an existing retained 50-foot RPA. Required mitigation for this amount, therefore satisfying county mitigation requirements. The previously proposed to be replaced. And not reconstructed. And this is the proposal section of the retaining wall, showing the existing here and the new construction here. Sent site photos. Here you can see where the 2 understory trees are proposed, the previously existing fire pit, and then looking back towards the beginning of the retaining wall, coming along this fence here and around this area, the existing failed retaining wall, and then the slope behind it. Staff has evaluated the application and exception request for the construction of a retaining wall. This application meets the ordinance conditions in sections 23-11 and 23-14 and should be heard by the board because the construction of a retaining wall is considered accessory in nature. The board may grant exceptions to section 23-7 if the application meets the following 5 conditions, which you have before you. Staff has reviewed the application and exception request and has determined the impacts associated with the proposal to be minor for the proposed development. Staff recommends approval for this exception request, and if the board wishes to approve the request, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the approval. The applicant must obtain all other necessary federal, state, and local permits as required for the project. The applicants must submit a surety of $500 in a form acceptable to the James City County's Attorney's Office to guarantee the mitigation plan equaling 2 understory trees and 2 shrubs. This exception request approval will become null and void if construction has not begun by March 11th, 2027. And written requests for an extension to an exception must be submitted to the SRP division no later than January 28th, 2027, 6 weeks prior to the expiration date. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Questions for staff?
Indicated the existing retaining wall is going to stay there,
That's,
provide any benefit?
I will defer that to the applicant.
Other questions for staff? Could you go back to the cross-section drawing of the proposed structure? They're retaining the existing, the soil will be removed and replaced or removed and left out of there.
For that to the applicant.
Okay. And these are horizontal alignment of the boards for the retaining wall as opposed to being driven? Okay.
The applicant.
I don't have any more questions then. Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing. Would the applicant care to address the board?
Hello, Karen Hall, 7501 Mill Trail Road, Charles City, Virginia.
Karen?
Hi. Can you repeat your questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Sure. So is the fill that's being removed going to be replaced or?
It's not anticipated to be replaced. The reason the existing retaining walls to remain is you saw how sheer that slope is, just to avoid any disturbance on that side of the wall and pulling anything out to disturb it further was the intent, but the existing wall has failed.
So will that area just be revegetated?
So I think I show proposed riprap on the downslope side of the proposed wall, so that even though that existing retaining wall has failed, there'll be nothing but riprap cover there to facilitate any drainage that comes through there.
And then the structural alignment of the boards, are they horizontal or vertical? Are they being?
They'll be vertically driven into the soil.
Okay.
And you can see on the profile that the boards go further down into the soil there, so.
And is the surface drain, you think, enough to keep the hydraulic head from impacting the wall?
I think so.
Okay.
We evaluated a drop inlet, but it seemed like excessive for what was going on there.
Questions? Tall. Very much.
Thank you.
Would anybody else care to address the board on this matter? With that, I will pull the discussion back to the board. Seem to have an issue that they're wrestling with. The stone, does make the area of encroachment a little bit wider as it's shown on the plan view, which helps clarify for me why we were showing such a large area, but
But that's all behind where the existing wall is now,
Correct,
right?
yeah. I don't particularly have an issue with this. I think it's necessary. With that, I will close the public hearing. The matter is before the board. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the resolution to grant the exception request for Chesapeake Bay Board case number CBPA 26-0006 at 10-200 Sycamore Landing Road.
Mr. Wilson?
Motion is to adopt. Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Ms. Bowie?
Yes.
Mr. Roadley?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next item on the agenda is CBPA 26-0012 at 110 Archer's Hope Drive.
Good evening again, Board. Emily Grogine, Watershed Planner, presenting CBPA 26-0012. Mr. Mitchell Foos of the King's Garden has applied for a Chesapeake Bay exception on behalf of Mr. Donald Pratt Jr. and Miss Geraldine Pratt for encroachments into the RPA buffer for the construction of 2 retaining walls, stairs, and a walkway located at 110 Archer's Hope Drive within the Kings Point subdivision and the College Creek watershed. We have that subject parcel, as usual, outlined in blue, along with that watershed boundary outlined in yellow. Moving further into recent aerial photography, you can see an existing dock. And then this is the area of focus for the proposal. Along with the existing topography, as you can see, it kind of just slowly slopes back towards the rear of the property, towards the water. And then the current RPA buffer, along with the FEMA floodplain, which is zone AE with a base flood elevation of 7 feet. The total lot size of this property is 3.056 acres, of which 52% is located within the RPA. The parcel was platted in 1973 prior to the adoption of the Chesapeake Bay Ordinance in 1990. The applicants are proposing to construct 2 retaining walls, stairs, and a walkway. Total impacts to the RPA associated with this proposal equate to 411 square feet of impacts in the landward 100-foot RPA, 395 square feet of impacts in the seaward 50-foot RPA, for a total of 806 square feet of total impacts to the RPA. Required mitigation for this amount of impervious impacts equals 2 planting units or 2 canopy trees, 4 understory trees, and 6 shrubs. The applicants have proposed a mitigation plan equaling 2 understory trees and 55 shrubs. This exceeds the county's mitigation requirements. So we have the site plan here before you. All of the proposed work to take place within the 100-foot landward buffer is outlined in purple. If you look at these little dots here, they're a landscape feature. They're basically big boulders. So we wanted to account for those impervious impacts, as well as the retaining wall, the first one here, along with the stairs and walkway, which continues into the seaward RPA buffer outlined in orange, with stepstones that go up to that existing dock. And then this is a cross-section of those proposed retaining walls. We have Deadman tieback here, with stabilization proposed along the top and bottom of both retaining walls. And then the mitigation plan with those 2 understory trees along with various native shrubs, all in green here. And then just some recent site photography showing existing conditions on the site. There is a 3rd existing retaining wall towards the top of the house. It's cut off right about here in this screenshot here. So standing from the top of that, just to give you an idea of where that 100-foot RPA buffer starts, as well as the extent of that first proposed retaining wall is, and then moving down, again, looking at kind of the alignment of where that first retaining wall will go. And it gives you an idea as well of the slope on the property. And then just looking more direct towards the water, kind of following that proposed path. There's sort of an existing one, but as we go through these photos, you'll see the existing condition of it. Just moving closer on those stairs, again, just following the current proposed pathway. We're about to go into the 50 seaward here, and then moving further in, there's that existing dock with the stepstones that'll be proposed here. And this is about where that second retaining wall in orange will be placed. And then just an uphill shot of everything showing existing site conditions from about halfway through where those proposed stepstones will go, looking up towards the house and a proposed pathway. And then just a little bit further up, kind of standing again where that second proposed retaining wall will be. And then just moving back up, again, that first retaining wall will be placed right about here with the proposed walkway and stairs coming down this way towards the water. And then again, just another shot to show that existing retaining wall that I mentioned previously that's not within the RPA. And then just the existing grade on the site. Staff has evaluated the application and exception request for the construction of 2 retaining walls, stairs, and a walkway. This application meets the ordinance conditions in sections 23-11 and 23-14 and should be heard by the board because the construction of retaining walls, stairs, and a walkway is accessory in nature. The board may grant exceptions to section 23-7 if the application meets the following 5 conditions outlined before you. Staff has reviewed the application and exception request and has determined the impacts associated with the proposal to be moderate for the proposed development. Staff recommends approval for this exception request, and if the board wishes to approve that request, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the approval. The applicants must obtain all other necessary federal, state, and local permits as required for the project. The applicants must submit a surety of $3,750 in a form acceptable to the James City County Attorney's Office to guarantee the mitigation plan equaling 2 understory trees and 55 shrubs. This exception request approval will become null and void if construction is not begun by March 11th, 2027, and written requests for an extension to an exception must be submitted to the SRP division no later than January 28th, 2027, which is 6 weeks prior to the expiration date. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Questions for staff? Fairly well presented, thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Would the applicant care to address the board?
How you guys doing?
Good. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mitch Foose. I'm the owner of the King's Garden, and this is Sarah Lamb. She's the designer. And so basically the hillside is eroding. It's all open soil, and so we're proposing retention walls to lessen the slope to mitigate the erosion. And we're trying to create a pathway for the owners to safely get down from their house to the dock. And we're going to be doing a lot of mitigation planting to hold the hillside down, along with the inclusion of boulders so that those can be kind of dug into the hill and act as stabilization as well.
In addition to the stepping stones, is there a mulch applied as well? I noticed they had some mulch down now.
So there will be mulch applied in the middle of the 3 sections. The top section above the first retention wall is going to be zoysia sod. And then the lower section where the stepping stones go from the lower retention wall to the dock is also going to be zoysia sod.
What's the elevation of the retaining walls?
Less than 3 feet on the top one, just a little under 3 feet, and the bottom one should be about 2.5 feet.
Step down from those, from the walkway through some steps, or just?
Yeah, so the staircase that was shown in the plan is going to be a stacked stone staircase, so it's going to be big slabs of stone that are
Oh, I see it.
stacked on each other. Yeah.
What's that?
Other questions from the board? Thank you very much. Would anybody else care to address the board on this matter? Hearing none, I'll pull the discussion back to the board. Observations you'd like to bring forward?
A little bit of erosion there. This will help it. I think it's a good plan.
We'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the motion to adopt the resolution to grant the exception request for the Chesapeake Bay Board, case number CBPA 26-0012 at 110 Archer's Hope Drive.
Motion is to adopt. Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Ms. Bowie?
Yes.
Mr. Oatley?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, CBPA 26-0011 at 3080 North Riverside Drive.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Amanda Frazier, Watershed Planner, presenting CBPA-26-0011, 3080 North Riverside Drive. Ms. Kimberly Grimes has applied for a Chesapeake Bay exception for encroachments into the RPA buffer for the construction of an in-ground pool located at 3080 North Riverside Drive within the Chickahominy Haven subdivision and the Yarmouth Creek watershed. This parcel was platted in 1959 prior to the adoption of the Chesapeake Bay Ordinance in 1990. We have the vicinity map with the subject parcel outlined in blue, and the watershed boundary outlined in yellow. A closer aerial image of the property with the project area in this general location. Current topography, RPA, FEMA floodplain. The total lot size of this property is 0.395 acres, of which 48% is located within the RPA. The applicant is proposing to construct an in-ground pool. The applicant is proposing to remove existing decks and a pump house structure within the RPA. These existing structures equate to approximately 764 square feet of existing impervious within the 50-foot landward RPA and approximately 80 square feet of existing impervious within the 50-foot seaward RPA. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1,440 square foot in-ground pool and pool deck behind the existing dwelling where the existing decks are currently located. Total new impacts to the RPA associated with this proposal equate to approximately 116 square feet of new impacts to the landward 50-foot RPA, approximately 496 square feet of new impacts to the seaward 50-foot RPA, for an approximate total of 612 square feet of new impacts to the RPA. Required mitigation for this amount of impervious impacts equals 1.5 planting units, 1 canopy tree, 2 understory trees, and 9 shrubs. The applicant has proposed a mitigation plan of 2 canopy trees, 4 understory trees, and 6 shrubs, thus exceeding the county's mitigation requirements. So here we have a site plan showing the limits of the proposed pool and deck. This area here in purple includes the existing deck and where the new impervious will be proposed in this area here, and then it will extend into the 50 seaward here. This is the existing pump house that is proposed for removal and the proposed pump pad for the pool. This was the submitted mitigation plan with the mitigation plantings on the side of the property line. Topography of the site. Here we have the side yard going around to the back, the existing decks, showing the rest of the existing decks, and then the area where the pool is proposed. I have some markers here and here showing the limits of the proposed pool and pool deck. And then looking back downslope towards the water, and looking back towards the existing deck and the limits of the proposed pool. Staff has evaluated the application and exception request for the construction of an in-ground pool. This application meets the ordinance conditions in sections 23-11 and 23-14 and should be heard by the board because the construction of a pool is considered accessory in nature. The board may grant exceptions to section 23-7 if the application meets the following 5 conditions, which you have before you. Staff has reviewed the application and exception request and has determined the impacts associated with the proposal to be major for the proposed development. Staff finds the current proposal to be excessive and more than necessary to afford relief. However, if the board wishes to approve the request, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the approval. The applicant must obtain all other necessary federal, state, and local permits as required for the project. The applicant must submit a surety of $2,000 in a form acceptable to the James City County's Attorney's Office to guarantee the mitigation plan equaling 2 canopy trees, 4 understory trees, and 6 shrubs. This exception request approval will become null and void if construction has not begun by March 11th, 2027. Written requests for an extension to an exception must be submitted to the Stormwater and Resource Protection Division no later than January 28th, 2027, 6 weeks prior to the expiration date.
It?
Sure.
Any questions for staff? Could you go back to your site photos? Just to make sure I'm back one more. Okay. So where your tape is located is the approximate corner.
Based on field measurements.
So that tree's going to be removed.
Not provided with a plan that states that. However,
Well, removed or die, either one, because you're
Yeah.
going to chop through the roots, I would think.
I think there was a note in that sketch that said a 16-inch tree to be removed. Was that in that next, the sketch of the, yeah, this one here?
Oh, I am
18-inch tree to be
incorrect.
removed.
thank you.
Gradual slope down to the bulkhead. That's fair assessment. There you go. Pump house, what is that associated with currently?
I
That
will
for-
defer that to the applicant.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Thank you very much. I will open the public hearing. Would the applicant care to address the board? Okay.
Scott
Could you
Grimes.
state your name and address, please?
Scott
the
and Kim
record.
Grimes, 3080 North Riverside Drive, Chickahominy Haven. You know, we didn't come to the decision to put a pool in lightly, but the water quality in the river is such now, we can't swim in it anymore. It's just June and July, the water quality is just, with the old septic tanks in the neighborhood and stuff like that, we struggle to swim in the summertime. I'd like to note that the property sits, it's on a this lot does not flood at all. This board approved another pool, and we have a neighbor that has a pool, and this board approved it. And they were, 800
Yeah.
impervious,
Yeah.
800 square foot in the impervious, and their lot is smaller, and we're only asking for 614. That was CBPA 190038. It's our neighbors, that's what gave us the idea to do the pool. It does add 612 square foot of more impervious into the wetlands, but we would ask the board to consider it if possible. We did install a bulkhead early in 2025. We put a brand new bulkhead down, and it's about that much higher than the land, so any runoff would be caught by the vinyl bulkhead. Trying to think what else.
You have freeboard above the soil for the
Yes, sir.
for the.
We put a new bulkhead. The water tables are rising in the Chickahominy River. That's a fact. In the Yarmouth watershed, I own a couple marshes, but anyway, the bulkhead's that much higher than the land at the bottom. We did that on purpose. So we do have the new vinyl bulkhead we installed last year at the beginning of 2025. We got that approved, of course, by y'all in the James City County.
How does water that flows off that slope drain through the bulkhead?
It's got the riprap, and it's got weep holes down at the bottom of it, and it's got the rock behind it, and then it goes down, and then it's like drainage pipe, and it carries it out, I guess, under the ground, under the bulkhead, basically, so it doesn't wash the bulkhead out. Trying to think what else it may come to attention here. I don't know, but again, the pool that this board approved before, it's on a smaller lot, and it does flood. This piece of property will not flood. It's the highest piece of property in the neighborhood.
It didn't flood in Isabel.
It didn't flood in Isabel. It's never going to flood. The water only comes halfway up the hill. I do realize it's more, 612 feet of impervious in the wetland, but I would ask that you possibly consider it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? I have one. In your discussions with staff, I assume that you're doing concrete around the pool deck?
Or we could use, there's block we could use that are not impervious. There's certain block we could use. I was talking to somebody this morning. We could alter it and do that if necessary.
The
Pavers.
Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you what to
Sure.
put or what not to put.
I understand.
My concern or issue that I'm bringing up is just the water that flows off the the structure. And granted, you have that bulkhead in place, which is acting as a bit of a filter currently. Others have considered, landscaping around that pool deck to help filter water that may run off or other
And, yeah,
mechanisms.
we could absolutely mitigate it. We could put we didn't put that in the plan, of course, but we could put a small retaining wall around the outside and put drainage with pipes and run it down to the drains in the bulkhead and take the water out that way. There's things we're willing to do anything just to, to get it approved, if possible.
I'll ask that you
It
just
won't- it won't-
consider that.
It won't be cheap, I promise you. It won't be cheap.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else care to address the board on this matter? Hearing none, I'll pull it back in front of the board. Discussion? I look at it this way, if you look at our charge to prevent sedimentation in the waterway, I'm not sure I see how this, even though it is impervious surface within the RPA buffer, is going to dramatically increase sediment flow into the river. My opinion.
I agree, Mr. Chair. I think also the other removal of that 18-inch tree and the, adding that, excess impervious is kind of, to me, gets into that kind of, as the staff recommended, in that major category disturbance.
The mitigative measures or permit conditions back up.
Mr. Chair, I think it not unreasonable to ask for additional plantings, perhaps around the perimeter, in addition to the 6 shrubs that right now are.
I'm listening. What did you have in mind?
In terms of a number?
Well, additional.
Well, particularly with the loss of the tree, I think any additional plantings beyond what's shown in the conditions might be reasonable.
I think staff recommended 1.5 planting units, and they're going with 2. Is that right? So
Already
Right.
exceeding.
You'd be in favor then of doubling the planting required? So going from 1.5 units to 3 units? Any other discussion amongst the board? I will close the public hearing. The matter is before the board. Do I have a motion?
Here, I would make a motion to deny the application for the exception request for Chesapeake Bay Board case number CBPA-26-0011 at 3080 North Riverside Drive.
We have a motion on the table or on the floor for denial of the motion or denial of the request. I will ask Mr. May to clarify, if he would.
My reason?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I think for this, as the county described, or the county staff described, this is a major impact and in my opinion, somewhat excessive for me to be in support of all of the impervious cover and removing the
Not in harmony with the spirit and intent of Chapter 23. Do I have a second? Motion on the floor. Do I have a second? To a vote, Mr. Wilson.
Motion is to deny. Mr. McElroy,
No.
Mr. O'Brien,
No.
Mr. May,
Yes.
Ms. Bowie.
No.
Mr. Roadley.
No.
Motion fails 4-1.
Matter is still open.
I-
The
I'm
motion to deny was defeated.
defeated, yeah. I'd be willing to make a motion to adopt. I'm willing to add the additional canopy or planting unit to the approval if we can make that request. So the motion I would make would be to adopt this resolution with the addition of that planting unit. It's currently at 2, and we're trying to get it to 3, or you can look at it as doubling 1.5 to 3.
If I may,
Please.
Mr. Chair, it would be prudent to ask the applicant to come up and amend their application to 3 planting units, so you can then vote on the amended application, should they so choose.
This is why we have staff. Hold on just a second. Let me open the public hearing and allow the applicant to come back before the board.
And we would also request that the surety amount be increased as well.
Mr. Grimes? I think you've heard the tenor of the board. Are you in agreement with the increased mitigation?
Absolutely. We have
and
we have no problem with that. Further plantings and further suturing, we have no problem at all with that.
Also the increased surety?
Surety, we have no problem with the increased surety.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, I will close the public hearing. The matter is back before the board, and we have a motion on the floor. Mr. Wilson?
Motion to adopt as amended. Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. May,
As amended, yes.
Ms. Bowie,
Yes.
Mr. Roadley.
Yes.
Amended motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, CBPA 26-0013 at 119 Rosemount.
Good evening, Board. Emily Grogine, Watershed Planner, presenting CBPA 26-0013. Mr. Chase Grogg of Land Tech Resources Incorporated has applied for a Chesapeake Bay exception on behalf of Mr. James Warren for encroachments into the RPA buffer for the construction of a single-family dwelling and patio located at 119 Rosemount within the Forest Colony subdivision and the Powhatan Creek watershed. The parcel was platted in 1985 prior to the adoption of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance. We have that subject parcel outlined in blue here, along with the Powhatan Creek watershed boundary highlighted in yellow. And then moving further into the parcel, we can see the existing aerial photography. Along with the existing topography, as you can see, it's fairly flat. And then the current RPA buffer, the total lot size of this property is 0.573 acres, of which 98% is located within the RPA. And then we have the FEMA floodplain here. It's located in Zone AE with a base flood elevation of 7 feet. And then the current site plan. The applicant is proposing to construct a single-family dwelling with a patio. Total impacts to the RPA associated with this proposal equate to 1,280 square feet of impacts to the landward 100-foot RPA, 3,552 square feet of impacts to the seaward 50-foot RPA, for a total of 4,832 square feet of impacts to the RPA buffer. The maximum first floor square footage for a single-story home in this section of Forts Colony is 1,500 square feet. This proposal has a first floor square footage of 1,533 square feet, a 2.2% increase. Required mitigation for this amount of impervious impacts equals 12 planting units, or 12 canopy trees, 24 understory trees, and 36 shrubs. The applicant has proposed a mitigation plan equaling 12 planting units, specifically 2 canopy trees, 8 understory trees, and 108 shrubs. This meets the county's mitigation requirements. Due to the environmental sensitivity of the lot, staff will be requiring the installation of a 6-foot chain link fence along the limits of wetlands prior to construction and the recordation of an affidavit at the Williamsburg-James City County Courthouse prior to the release of surety. Additionally, denuded soil underneath the proposed screen porch must be permanently stabilized prior to the release of surety. So here we have the overall site plan. The wetlands that have been recently delineated are in this bright green, building setback in this kind of square blue line. Everything within the 100-foot RPA buffer is outlined in purple, with the 50 seaward being outlined in orange. We have the proposed driveway and the single-family residence with the attached screen porch here, along with stairs that lead to that proposed patio right here. And this little black buffer here are the proposed limits of disturbance for the project. As you can see, the reason for the 6-foot chain link fence, they'll be clearing up to the limit of those wetlands. And we want to make sure no heavy machinery during construction impacts those wetlands. And then just moving closer in to the limits of disturbance of the site plan, again, proposed 100-foot buffer impacts are in purple, 50 seaward in orange. And then just the proposed mitigation plan that I previously read off from my staff report. All of those mitigation plans are outlined in this green here. And then just some recent site photography, kind of starting at the beginning of the driveway where the cul-de-sac is. It's a little cut off by my screenshot, but moving forward, these are the rough corners of the house that have been staked out. So this is kind of like standing in the proposed driveway, looking towards the front of the home, along the front of the home, I should say, where the walkway and everything will go. That corner staked here is right about here, and then moving to that stake, just again looking further closer to the other rough corner of the home that's located here. You can faintly see it with the orange staking, but I have more photos that will show that later. And then just turning to the right and looking up the side of the house to that other rough corner here that's staked out. And then as we move closer to that stake, you can see kind of where that limit is, where the wetland line is, and the space between that corner of the house and the edge of the limits of clearing. And then just turning to the left, looking at the extent of the house in the rear, we'll have part of the house kind of come out right about here, which extends to that screen porch. And then the other corner of the home is located down here. So moving to that, this is showing that rear corner here where that proposed patio will be placed, along with the stairs. And then going from the other side, looking back up that rear portion of the home where the corner of the house is staked, again showing kind of the limits of wetlands and the space in between the LOD and, limits of disturbance and where that proposed portion of the house extends to. And then just looking again from that back corner down the side of the property line where the patio is to the front corner here. And then just looking back up that way to give you a better idea of where the corner of the home is and where that patio will come out on the side here. Staff has evaluated the application and exception request for the construction of a single-family dwelling and patio. This application meets the ordinance conditions in sections 23-11 and 23-14 and should be heard by the board because the construction of a new single-family dwelling and patio in the seaward 50-foot RPA cannot be approved administratively. The board may grant exceptions to section 23-7 if the application meets the following 5 conditions outlined before you. Staff has reviewed the application and exception request and has determined the impacts associated with the proposal to be major for the proposed development. If the board wishes to approve the request, staff recommends the following conditions be incorporated into the approval. The applicant must obtain all other necessary federal, state, and local permits as required for the project. The applicant must submit a surety of $6,000 in a form acceptable to the James City County Attorney's Office to guarantee the mitigation plan equaling 12 planting units or 2 canopy trees, 8 understory trees, and 108 shrubs. A 6-foot chain link fence must be installed along the limits of wetlands prior to the start of construction. Denuded soil underneath the proposed screen porch must be permanently stabilized prior to the release of surety. The applicant must record an affidavit at the Williamsburg-James City County Courthouse prior to the release of surety. This exception request approval will become null and void if construction is not begun by March 11th, 2027, and written request for an extension to an exception must be submitted to the SRP Division no later than January 28th, 2027, which is 6 weeks prior to the expiration date. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Questions for staff?
Show a particular slide with the floodplain. Completely in it, right? Or adjacent properties.
Go one slide back. So help me with delineate the, is there a wetland area? Oh, I see it in the green line.
There's a very faint green line that matches what's on the site plan, how it kind of goes a little straight, cuts off right about here, and then goes back down.
Things being kept up to the direction north.
Thank you. Done. I'll open the public hearing. Mr. Grog? We're not done, sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Chase Grog with Land Tech Resources, 205 Bullifonts Boulevard, Suite E, Williamsburg, Virginia. Thank you, Ms. Grogine, for the staff overview of the project. Also with me this evening are Mr. and Mrs. Sherry, who are the potential purchasers of this lot and would be constructing the proposed home. The current owner, Mr. Warren, is here as well. This parcel was platted in 1985 prior to the adoption of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance. And like many of the remaining lots in Ford's Colony, it presents environmental constraints. The lot is 0.573 acres in size, and approximately 98% of the property lies within the resource protection area, which makes developing the parcel while protecting water quality the goal of this application. With those constraints in mind, we work carefully with the homeowner, the designer, and Ford's Colony to ensure the layout presented to the board represents the minimum necessary to afford relief while still allowing the reasonable use of the property as a single-family home. The square footage for the proposed home has been designed within the limits of this section of Ford's Colony. I have also already attended a conceptual review meeting with Ford's Colony, and this layout has received preliminary approval from them as well. We intentionally kept the house footprint as compact as possible to limit the impervious area and overall disturbance within the buffer. The proposal results in 4,832 square feet of total RPA buffer impact, which includes 1,280 square feet in the landward 100-foot buffer and 3,552 square feet in the seaward 50-foot buffer. While these impacts are unavoidable given the lot conditions, we are able to place all of the required mitigation within the lot, which will provide significant vegetated buffering and long-term environmental benefit within the RPA. For site grading, the front half of the house, as well as a majority of the driveway, will be directed to a proposed swale that ties into an existing Ford's Colony drainage ditch. This will help ensure that during construction, runoff is not directed toward the wetlands, and post-construction will provide additional travel time for water before it reaches the wetlands. Any drainage that ultimately flows towards the wetlands will rejoin the drainage in the rear of the lot before entering a storm pipe. That pipe continues under the golf course to JCC BMP PC 150. In essence, the wetlands on this lot are seasonally saturated wetlands that ultimately flow to a man-made drainage swale into a concrete pipe and finally into a regional BMP. It is beneficial for this lot to drain to a BMP since we're not able to propose an on-site facility due to other lot constraints. First, the lot has very limited fall, which would prevent an in-ground BMP since there would be nowhere to daylight a pipe. Second, the FEMA flood zone encompasses the entire lot. The base flood elevation is 29.4 feet, which is over 2 feet above the existing ground elevation. While we did explore raising the home with fill to remove it from the flood zone, the amount of disturbance required would have drastically increased impacts and ultimately resulted in a much more negative environmental outcome. In closing, this is a pre-CBPA lot that is almost entirely within the RPA, and the design presented tonight reflects a careful effort to balance reasonable property use with protection to the surrounding environmental resources. The proposal has been designed to meet the ordinance criteria while minimizing impacts and providing appropriate mitigation. Based on the information provided, the applicant, current owner, and myself respectfully request the board approve the Chesapeake Bay exception. thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Grog?
Question, could you walk me through the ditch layout with the runoff? We have that in,
Go back to yeah, we'll start here and then I'll go to my site plan. So these are tee boxes. It's a par 3. This light color you see here is a concrete ditch. There's a head wall here that then is piped under, and this is the edge of the BMP. Ford's Colony has a graded out ditch that swings around the back, and then they have greenway here, and you can see their ditch there. So then they have a recently improved, I believe it was probably within the last 5 years, that this is a trapezoidal ditch that goes all the way up here. In the middle of our lot is where those wetlands are. There's an old logging road that runs through there. So this is just a batch of wetlands that most likely when the golf course was created, this was raised and it just got kind of left on the inside there. And then let's go, it's my site plan after. Yeah. So orienting you again, that concrete ditch is in this back area. That's the main channel from Ford's Colony. So the goal of this site plan was to get this drainage to go into a swale in the front, and then you'll have an A-frame roof. So this roof drainage would come in the front and then go into that channel and around. You would have a portion of this landing as well as the back of the house that would drift, filter through the wetlands basically. But it's in essence just a pocket of wetlands because on the back of our property, it hits the concrete, goes under the golf course and into a BMP. Does that cover?
yes.
Mr. Groggs, what's the square footage of the proposed residence?
Square footage of the proposed residence, as staff mentioned, is just over 1,500 square feet. It doesn't include the garage.
Seems significantly smaller than the adjacent properties. Is that?
Yeah, for this particular one, since we were right in line with those guidelines for Ford's Colony, I know in the past I've gone through to the other square footages for the reasonable comparison, but since we were right in line with that, I wasn't overly concerned with that in this particular instance. But I would agree, since we're there, most likely everything around us is only bigger.
Is oak trees pre-existing in the wetlands, or are they part of the mitigation plan?
Everything on this page that you're looking at are existing trees. So yeah, so I mean, basically the whole back half of the lot will remain vegetated.
Any other questions for Mr. Grog?
Mr. Gregg, do you have concerns for the trees that are right there along that temporary fence line?
I mean, there's the 12-inch oak there. Oops, sorry, I lost the mouse. This 12-inch oak will probably remain, and these 3, will come out. We'll obviously be walking a fine line there because the jurisdiction changes at those wetlands. So I don't believe those trees will have to most likely be climbed and limbed down and not pushed over with an excavator.
How about the one over here in the corner? Looks like it's sort of.
Down here?
Right, yes.
My guess is because we're not doing any grading over here, this tree would just remain. It's far enough away from the house so it could remain. And then same thing up in the front here. Again, kind of as discussed, I've been looking at this lot. This one's been on my radar probably about 3 years now, 2 or 3 years. And so at one point, one of the things we did explore was bringing in about 2 to 3 feet of fill on this lot and do a LOMA through FEMA to bring it to where the house would be out of the flood zone. That would have resulted in impacts to the actual wetlands. So when we started working with this current client, we were able to come up with a nice, not very deep house fitted in there with the orientation, with the setbacks that we have. But that did allow us to keep a batch of trees also in the front. So it is going to be kind of tucked in within the woods.
It's technically going to be in the floodplain.
It will, yeah.
Okay.
So it'll have to be constructed to current standards for FEMA. So the finished floor for this particular house right now is proposed up at 32.4. So it'll be about 5 feet in the air above the current grade. So the county requires a 2-foot freeboard. So the floor joists from the home have to be at least 31. 31. So it'll be up at 32. Correct. Sorry.
Any other questions for Mr. Grog? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else care to address the board on this matter? Hearing none, I will pull the discussion back to the board.
Chair, I would say do the plantings, the swale, the existing B and P, it's a reasonable size home. This, in my opinion, is a well thought out, balanced, approach to this difficult piece of property.
These are difficult lots in Ford's Colony, pre-existing the act, and, we often wrestle with the size, configuration, supplemental BMPs, but as Mr. Krog has pointed out, those aren't appropriate here. The size was reduced to be more in harmony with our review of these types of projects.
Wonder when this property would come in front of us. But, because there's a cost issue associated with dealing with the floodplain, but they're willing to move ahead with that. That's not a matter for us to consider in our decision. But
With that, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution to grant the exception request for Chesapeake Bay Board case number CBPA 26-0013 at 119 Rosemount.
Mr. Wilson?
Motion is to adopt. Mr. McElroy,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. May,
Yes.
Ms. Bowie, Mr. Roadley.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
That concludes, I believe, our public hearings for the evening. Item for board considerations, Mr. Wilson?
First off, there will be an April meeting. And then want to announce Ms. Amanda Frazier, this will be her last meeting. She has taken a new position at Fauquier County and will be leaving James City County employment on Friday. So I want to express.
Don't go.
I want to express my thanks and gratitude to Amanda for her time here serving in the Stormwater Division. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Speech. Don't hurt me.
It was a really hard decision to leave. I've had a fantastic time here, but unfortunately, I cannot convince my entire. So, right back home.
Okay.
Ray
Well-
area?
Warrenton.
Oh, Warrenton.
My
Okay.
family lives in Rappahannock County,
Yeah.
so
Right.
yeah.
Well, drop by, say hello sometimes.
Should buy
Thank you
Emily
very much
some-
for your
some new
service to the
shoes 'cause
board.
She's gonna be doing a lot of walking probably next.
If we'd have known
next
this,
month.
we would have rejected one of your cases, just.
Because.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Are there any matters of special privilege, Mr. Wilson? Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.